My name's Kevin Getch. I am the treasurer for SEMpdx. I've pretty much been in almost most of the positions, from marketing to president to past president to director of charity of choice to now the treasurer. So definitely love the organization, love all of our members, and am super grateful that we have this community that we do have. Real quick, I'm going to walk you through a couple things. None of this would be possible without our event sponsors. So I want to big shout out to our event sponsor, Web Ranking, for supporting these monthly events and making sure that we can have these, as well as Web4. For those who don't know, I know we have a lot of members here who are familiar with this, and I want to give you guys an update. But for those who don't know, we select a charity of choice, SEMpdx does each year, and we do pro bono work for them. We also help raise money for them. And this last year has been Elevate Oregon. And so there'll be some more communications coming out on that as we finish out the year. But we've already, with the help of our members, so with your help, we've donated $2,000 and pro bono marketing services to Elevate Oregon. So if you want to learn more about them, you can visit elevateoregon.org right here down at the bottom. And I'm assuming you guys are all connected with us on your preferred social platforms, but make sure you connect with us on all the socials. And just a reminder that right now, and this is just for a limited time, it may go through the end of the year. I'm not exactly sure. We're trying to work that out, but we've made membership free to SEMpdx. So just with everything that's going on in the world, we wanted to just take away all the barriers we could and make sure that we're providing value to all of our members, and that everyone that wants access to high quality information and communities on digital marketing has that access. So if you haven't already joined, go to sempdx.org/membership and make sure you join today. So I mentioned about Q&A. I think we're probably just going to do live Q&A at the end, since the Q&A feature isn't in this Zoom meeting. In the future, we'll probably do it through Zoom because we're going to test out the webinar feature. And with that, I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker today. Evan is going to be talking on internal linking, and he's going to talk everything past PageRank. He's going to talk about how search engines like Google use internal links to better understand the overall content and site architecture. So he's going to go through ways to improve our rankings and help users find what they're looking for as well. And so Evan has over a decade of experience as an SEO architect. He works with Portent, super passionate about SEO, loves technical SEO problems, and is currently learning JavaScript and Python. And then when he's not cleaning up websites, he actually enjoys tabletop games. Is that like ping pong? I'm thinking tabletop games. My first thought is ping pong. Is there other tabletop games I'm not aware of?
Usually that means board games or some of the more sophisticated ones, but it also means Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
before the pandemic, I was starting to get into competitive Magic.
Dang, okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's funny. It's been a while since I've done some of that, but I feel like it would be a perfect time to take some of that kind of stuff back up to get out that kind of creative, have that creative outlet. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Evan, and you can share your screen. I might have to stop sharing. There we go.
You need to enable it for me.
Well, that would be helpful. And then.
Okay, yeah, here we go.
Perfect.
So, yeah, been doing SEO for over 10 years now. And when I started, link spam was what was working. And so a lot of the things I learned back then was, why does link spam work? How does it work? What is it in Google that we were actually abusing and taking advantage of? A lot of those things are not really, they don't really work anymore. I wouldn't even recommend any of that stuff anymore. But a lot of the systems that were being abused, they're still in production and they still apply. It's just that interacting with them is more about having a better website, as we usually say. So I'm going to cover a few things, overview, what it is that why links matter, talk a little bit about link structure, anchor text, and then a quick process overview for how I like to go and do internal linking deliverables. So the reason why links matter is the web is just documents and the links between them. Pretty basic. That's how hypertext started. We have a document in a browser, and we get to the next document through links. And that was a pretty big deal back then. And there were a lot of people interested in what that means and how it works. And two of those people were Larry Page and Sergey Brin. And their research at Stanford was about how pages link to each other and how to derive meaning from that. And they went as far as developing a search engine by accident, and they turned it into Google. So their breakout algorithm was PageRank. I'm sure a few of you are familiar with that. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of how it works, but generally PageRank is mostly about authority, but these days it might be partially about relevance and trust. So generally, search engines want to look at the link structure of the web or a single website to identify the signals about relevance, authority, and trust, or what we're calling EAT now. And the goal of the search engines is to look at all of the possible signals that they can find, and then find the ones that yield the best search results, and then rank the pages with those signals. So Google's going to take the web as it exists, what's currently out there, and then figure out what is the best. And internal linking is one of the ways that we can affect this. Like I like to say, it's an easy lever to pull. Out of all the levers we can pull to affect rankings, internal links work pretty well. The other ones would be keyword targeting in a title tag, or an H1, or what kind of content we're including on a landing page. But what that doesn't mean is that we should try to game the system. Like I said, Google tries to analyze the web as it is. So if we're trying to rank higher, that doesn't mean we should go and try to do very weird, unusual, or manipulative things. Instead, we should try to resemble a good website. Or the best way to resemble a good website is to be a good website. And so there is some danger in messing with your internal links. Like on the guidelines page, Google says any links intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking could be considered part of a link scheme. So if you do abusive things, if you take this to an absurd end, you might lose ranking. You might get hit by a core algorithm update. Hard to say. So link structure also determines a few things besides just authority. Click depth, categorization, crawl rate, canonicalization. Back in the day, before we had canonical tags, Google would look at what are the URLs we link to the most often, and then that would usually become the URL, the index, or their canonical. And when we talk about link structure, we tend to visualize it in two major ways. A very flat site architecture, or a very deep one, where a flat one would have multiple categories and lots of pages under those categories. Or a deep one would be very few category pages and lots of subcategory pages under them. But we can also quantify link structure. If you're familiar with Screaming Frog's link score, or other tools that can crawl a website and generate an internal PageRank number, you can use this to determine what is the PageRank distribution on a website. So Screaming Frog added this, I think, maybe a year or two ago. It's a little bit hidden away because you have to turn on link analysis after you crawl a site. But the link score metric is a pretty good way of quantifying the internal PageRank distribution over a site. It looks to be based on one of the classic patents, but I don't think they've gone into detail into exactly how they do it. So when we talk about link structure, SEOs often say flatter is better. And it's basically true, but there are a few caveats. The SEOs also like to say all of our pages should be 4 or less clicks away from the home page, which is often a very ambitious thing to try to do. So there's a problem. If our architecture is completely flat, there's no organization. If we just have a home page and then all of the pages linked to the home page, that would be a very weird website, and it would be difficult to make sense out of. So we need to have a few layers. We need to have a few categories to organize our information. So we can't go completely flat. And oftentimes, 3 or 4 clicks away from the homepage is not really possible. This screenshot is a force-directed diagram of a website that we crawled. And on the left, there's the home page and its category pages. This cluster here is the blog. And this other cluster here is the second pagination page for the blog. And then linked off of that are posts, and some posts are often 7 clicks deep. So with pagination involved, we can't guarantee that all of our pages are going to be 3 to 4 clicks away from the home page. So why do people say flat link structure if we can't go too flat, or oftentimes the ideal is not even possible? Well, the reason is home pages tend to have the most link authority. If you look at the backlinks for any given website, most of them are going to have all the backlinks pointing to the home page, or most of them anyway. So the pages that are linked to from the home page, they get the lion's share of that external incoming page rank. And the other part is usability. Users will reach their destination faster after landing on the homepage and navigating. So I think the better conclusion is all of our important landing pages should be 3 to 4 clicks away from the homepage, or from the pages with the most backlinks. Some sites have most backlinks pointing to some other page. That's the case on important.com, where most of our backlinks point to our content idea generator tool. So that means if we want to get our important landing pages 3 to 4 clicks away from the homepage, we want to flatten a site that we're already working on, and we want to do some connecting the dots. So one way to flatten a site or reduce the deepest parts of a site is improve the pagination. If a blog has thousands of blog posts, or there's some other content section with thousands of entries in it, we can have a pagination series that's 100 clicks deep, which is not great for the crawl rate of those pages. How often Google wants to crawl a page is partially determined by link authority or PageRank. So things that are at the end of a very long pagination series aren't going to get crawled very often. Many sites are moving over to infinite scrolling or dynamic loading, where the user is to click a load more button and more content appears, or they just scroll down and more content appears in JavaScript. That's not great either, because there's no longer a pagination navigation link bar. And the solution here is put more links in the navigation link bar, and put more entries on a pagination page. That would reduce the overall number of pagination pages in the series and reduce the depth of all of the entries in there. My coworker, Matthew Henry, wrote a blog post about how pagination affects link depth that is very interesting. He goes into the different ways that you could optimize
I think you went on mute, Evan. Can you, or at least I can't hear you. Hopefully it's just not just me. Okay, someone else can't hear as well. Obviously it was just working, so. Oh, there you go. I start to hear you. Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I have a USB problem where sometimes I
No worries.
lose Mike. When did you lose me?
Literally like just right on this page as soon as it started.
Okay. At Portent, we talk about content hubs with clients a lot. And that's just an easy way of explaining why they should link to related content from their pages. So if we have a lot of blog posts that are deep in a pagination series, one of the ways we can bring them up in the link structure is to link to them from a newer blog post. So one way to do that that's good for users is to link related content together. One example is, suppose we wrote a blog post about Core Web Vitals. We could also have other blog posts about largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, first input delay, and we can link to all of those from the Core Web Vitals page, where we're creating an informal hierarchical structure. And this provides a few benefits. We get to move users to related content. We get to share link authority between the pages. And Google can see that the related content is linked together, and that gets factored into their algorithm somehow. We have a couple blog posts that are more about content hubs. I'm going to share the link later to this slideshow so you can go and check out these links. Another way is an HTML sitemap. This is something that we used to do a lot of in SEO, and it's fallen by the wayside, but I found it to be pretty handy. The way it works in terms of link structure is that every link in a footer navigation is linked to from pretty much every other page. And that's where we would put the link to an HTML sitemap. And it's a good place to put our important landing pages or categories or sections that we're not able to fit into the main navigation, a footer navigation, or sidebar. So if it's linked to from every other page on the site, it gets a little bit of PageRank or link authority from all the other pages, and it distributes it out to all the pages linked to on the HTML sitemap. It doesn't have to include every page, just the ones that we feel are important or we want to rank. Another thing to do is what I call canonical crawling path. It's pretty much, if you visualize your site as an information architecture, every page or every level in that architecture should link to its parent and link to its child page. Or in other words, if every page links to the pages above it and below it in the architecture, our website becomes fully traversable through links. Or a user can start on one page and navigate only through links to get to any other page. And that means link authority can pass through the entire site that way too. One side effect is there are no orphaned pages. And this is something that we often overlook. We just kind of assume that a user is going to navigate to a deeper page through main navigation on a hub page. Sometimes we don't even put internal links to every child page. And that can create problems for those pages that aren't linked. They're just not getting enough love. And when auditing a website, a good way to start is mobile first. Something I remind my strategists to do is, when taking a look at a client's website, always look at the site in the mobile version first before going to desktop. And the reason for that is, Mobile first indexing makes the mobile version of any page's content the content that counts, that goes in the index, that gets factored into algorithms and layout algorithms and things like that. And with JavaScript rendering in the mix, that means we shouldn't be looking at page source. We should be looking at what's in the DOM, or the document object model. So whatever appears in the DOM without the user having to click on anything or scroll is what counts as far as the search engine is concerned. So that means one of the updates to PageRank that Google patented a while ago, the reasonable surfer model, what they want to do is re-weight links on a page based on position and context and purpose to determine which links count more than others. So that means if you want to think about links in those terms, you should start with mobile first, because that's probably what Google's doing. And there's a few more tips for improving link structure. Naturally, we want to include more hubs or important pages in the global navigation. Some SEOs say that we should try to keep the main navigation limited and as small as possible. I think there's value in the opposite, putting more stuff in navigations tastefully, within reason. We can look at information architecture and collapse levels that don't matter. Like, we can try to identify subcategories that could be collapsed above or below. We can split categories up to create new subcategories and move all of the subpages up one level in their information architecture. I like to make sure on blogs, tag pages, category pages, and author archives are all indexable. Some SEOs don't like to do that, but I think it creates a lot more internal links for the blog posts that they link to. Check internal site search for pages that users can't find. Oftentimes, they won't navigate around the site, or they won't go to the footer or an HTML sitemap to find something. They'll go straight to search, and those can be good pages to put in the main navigation, because if they're looking for it internally, they might be searching for it on the search engine. And really, really old advice that doesn't apply anymore is not to have more than 100 links on a page. That is really, really old advice that Google gave because that was the limitation of their crawler. They couldn't just store that much information on a page. These days, there isn't really a limit to how many links you should have on a page. It's really about usability, and you'll know when you have too many because it'll look absurd. Most of the slides here come from a blog post I wrote recently called Internal PageRank Optimization Strategies. You can check out more there. For anchor text, anchor text is about describing a page, and the way that Google's classically done it is to use the anchor text of the links pointing to a page for keyword matching. So the way that works is when you type in a query, Google looks at the pages that contain the words of that query, counts how many hits there are, and then includes that into ranking. So Google will weight those words in title tags and H1 tags more than other words, but they'll also weight the words that appear in anchor text. And that's classic old school search engine behavior. So what SEOs did for a long time is put keywords in anchor text and then get a lot of them to rank higher. Nowadays, there's going to be diminishing returns. Google's going to be able to look to see if there's an unnatural distribution. But with a change in Penguin, I see a lot of SEOs going back to this type of link spam. The screenshot is from a website that ranks on the first page for the keyword SEO company. And clearly you can see that targeting the target queries, SEO company, SEO services, search engine optimization. So that's the basic reason to use anchor text, but we should be more sophisticated than just putting our keyword in link anchor text. We should be trying to describe our pages to users. The thing is, users want to know what they're clicking on before they click on it, or what they want to know what's going to be on the page before they get there. Another way to talk about this is the blank sheet of paper test. If you gave someone a blank sheet of paper and the only thing written on it was the anchor text from a link pointing to it, could the user guess what's going to be on that page? And if our links in our global navigations, in our content, in our contextual links and blog posts, if users can get an idea of what's on the other side of that link, we're doing a good job. So that means we want to avoid generic anchor text like learn more, click here, read more, because it doesn't describe what's on the page. It doesn't help us get keyword relevance from that text. And it's actually a usability problem. People who use screen readers or use some kind of assistive technology, they will often, the browser will often read anchor text off to the user, and then so to help them understand what is on that link. But if every link on a page says learn more, they can't differentiate between them. So avoiding generic anchor text is good for users who aren't able to use a screen. And good links are more than just the anchor text being used. It's also presentation. I think Google and other search engines are getting a better idea of how good a link is or what the weight of it should be based on its presentation. So the screenshot on the left is a card navigation we use on one page that goes to a blog post of ours. And it's going to help users understand what's going to be on that page, because we have the blog category, the blog title, a byline, the date, an excerpt from the post. We do have a learn more link, and I'm trying to get rid of that. But otherwise, this is a really good way to describe a link. And I think helping users this way is going to pay off in the future as search engines get more sophisticated. Well, descriptive anchored text also helps usability in other metrics. As SEOs, we should want to also think of ourselves as organic search marketers. We want to get users who click on our search results to complete a conversion goal. So descriptive anchor text gives us higher click-through rate. We get more page views, longer sessions. People go down the funnel, and we're going to get better rankings, but indirectly. Cyrus Shepard wrote a good blog post about click-based signals that Google used to identify user engagement. The link is here. He also presented this at MozCon this year, and it was really good. The basic thing is, if users click on our pages from the search engine and then spend more time on the site, we'll tend to rank more, because that's a signal to Google that we're a better search result. And one of the ways to get users to spend more time on our site is to get them to look at more pages. So more descriptive links, better user engagement. So for our internal links, what we should want to do is get a list of the anchor text and the links pointing to our landing pages and how many there are. In Screaming Frog, you can get this from the all anchor text bulk export, and you can put it into your spreadsheet app of choice, create a pivot table, and then get a result like this. So you can see for this page on important, most of our links to the SEO services page are using the anchor text, search engine optimization services, and SEO, and not very many of the others. So for me, something I need to do is vary it and get more descriptive with this other anchor text. But that's not the whole story with anchor text. Something that SEOs used to talk a lot about when link spam was big is the first link priority rule for anchor text. Essentially, if one page links to another page multiple times, the first link in the DOM has the anchor text that's going to count towards keyword matching. And I've done a few tests. I'm writing a blog post that will come out sometime in October or November that goes into this more. But you can read more about it. This link here. This is back from 2008 when Rand Fishkin talked about this phenomenon, and basically what he's describing is still the case, but only for keyword matching. But I don't think keyword matching is the only thing going on these days. Googlers have said several times over the years that they have teams working on anchor text. And I think that means there's search engineers in different offices, different Google offices around the world, looking at ways to analyze anchor text. But it seems the only thing that we think about or we talk about is keyword matching. And keyword matching is old. I don't think they're just getting better at keyword matching. I think they're looking at other ways to use anchor text. So that opens up the question, what is it that they've been working on for the past 10 years? And I think one thing we can look at is natural language processing. BERT has been making a lot of waves. It's been a very big deal in the natural language processing community, and Google's been using BERT-based technologies in a lot of things. You may have seen headlines about about MUM or BERT-based learn to rank algorithms, things like that. But I think what they're trying to do is understand an anchor text like here in the middle bullet point. Check out our guide to the best backpacking campgrounds in the Sierra Nevada. So this sentence has a link that says our guide. If we only looked at keyword matching, the text that would count towards ranking is our guide. But the rest of the sentence is defining the guide as an entity, and then it's defining that entity as something about best backpacking campgrounds in a location. So I think what Google's trying to do is find ways of understanding the text surrounding a link to get a better idea of what it means. So I think a link like this could help a page rank for best backpacking campgrounds in the Sierra Nevada, but not because of the text, but because of how natural language processing understands the entities in the text and the connections between them. So, a few other tips for anchor text. Make the global navigation descriptive. Vary our anchor text to cover more keywords. We don't want to, when we include keyword relevant text in an anchor, we don't want to use the same ones over and over. We should want to switch it up. If an image is in a link, the alt attribute text of that image will count like an anchor text. And this is something that you can run tests on and prove for yourself, which is something I will talk about in my upcoming blog post about anchor text. Check navigation cards to see which content is actually in the link. Sometimes card navigations these days, they're not in an anchor, they're used as a button, and the whole thing's run by JavaScript. So none of the text in that card counts. So a good thing to do is actually inspect it in the browser, like Chrome Developer Tools, and make sure that there is an anchor tag and that there is text in it. When creating links, be conscious about where you're sending the user. Sometimes we don't want to send users up the conversion funnel. We want to send them down. So that means we shouldn't want to send users away from a conversion goal if the page is very strongly intended for qualified traffic. We shouldn't want to put links that go somewhere else. We want those links to send users further down the funnel instead. And generally, just use anchor text that users want to click on. Okay, so a process for creating internal links. I think internal linking is kind of an underused tactic. I've seen a few other SEOs on Twitter and blog posts say this too. For a long time, I used this as my back pocket tactic. If nothing else was working for a page, I'd create, say, a dozen internal links around the site, and I'd see some results. And usually we have pages on a site that we can leverage for this, like old blog posts, maybe on a B2B site, there are a lot of pages with a contact form for a gated PDF or something like that. There's oftentimes content sections with a lot of entries in it that we can utilize for internal linking, maybe even the press release section on a website. So a few things we want to do is improve our internal link authority distribution or internal PageRank distribution for our important landing pages, the pages we want to rank. We're also going to want to get better coverage for the keywords in the anchor text so that we're covering all of the keywords we want the page to rank for. We also want to find the pages that are getting a lot of backlinks and then spread that link authority to more pages. And one of the things we want to do is not do this just once or in the middle of a campaign or our engagement with a client or our internal site if we're in-house. We want to do this semi-regularly, either as part of campaigns or seasonally. So the first step is to create a landing page inventory. We want to get a spreadsheet together that's a table of our pages, our link score from Screaming Frog, and performance metrics like traffic, users or sessions, conversions, conversion rate, revenue. And what we want to do is find pages that have high sales or good sales, but they have low internal page rank. Here in the screenshot, this is a redacted e-commerce client, and a few of their product listing pages were linked well because they're in the main navigation, but they had a lot of product listing, and a lot of product description pages, individual product pages that weren't linked very often, but were bringing in decent sales. So the goal here is to find those pages that don't have a lot of internal links or not very strong internal links and then boost them. Because if we boost that, we can probably get better rankings on their existing keywords and get more sales. So this is a good way to find the ones that are most likely to get more revenue per link created. So there's a few other things we'll want to include in this inventory. We'll want to get the number of backlinks and linking domains. You can get this from your backlink tool of choice. At Portland, we use Ahrefs. We want to get some kind of PageRank replacement metric like Moz page authority for our pages or Ahrefs URL rating. I think SEMrush and Majestic have their own versions of these stats. You should want to include those if you have them. And then put those all together in one big inventory table. Next thing is take a look at that pivot table of internal anchor text and then see how it covers our intended keywords for that page. Here is a redacted client. They sell phone and internet plans locally, and we have a lot of keywords we want them to rank for. But if you look at how we're currently linking to these pages, like the most relevant links for each one is phone and internet. But we want to cover internet plans, fiber internet plans, home phone and internet, landline phone plans. We have a very big gap between how we're describing pages and what we want them to rank for. So now that we have a few ideas for how we want to use for anchor text, we've got to find a place to put a link. One way to go is to find pages that already have a lot of backlinks. This should be in the inventory, but if you don't have an inventory, you can go to Ahrefs or a similar tool and then go to the best pages by incoming links report. And you can sort it by which ones have the most incoming internal links. If we put a link on one of these pages to our important landing page, we can share this incoming page rank and help them rank higher. Or another way to go is find a topically relevant page to place a link on. The quick way that I use is to use the site operator. So this is a redacted client. So site domain.com and the keyword or topic we want that we're trying to look for. And then Google will naturally rank the most relevant pages on the site for that topic or keyword. And this is a good starting place to find a spot to place a link. Now with the anchor text we want to use, our target landing page and a page that we want to put a link on, we can start looking for a good spot. Here, this link that's underlined is text that I added to place into a link. My target keyword is internet plan, but I'm putting other stuff here to help the user understand what they're going to find there. So here, like in an FAQ dropdown, what internet speed do I need for streaming? Answer is it depends, but what it really depends on is the bandwidth provided by your internet plan. So after going through the process of finding these places, put a link, I want to put them into a spreadsheet. There's a template here that you can reuse if you like, but I try to structure this spreadsheet so that a client's internal team can place these links, or I can hand it off to a junior SEO, or I can hand it off to another strategist working on the account. So the linking page, the target URL, target keyword, intended anchor text, the sentence to put it in, and then any instruction notes for the person implementing. I find that that's really helpful so they don't have to guess at what the rest of this means. So results. This is some year-over-year traffic from a solar panel affiliate site owned by ClearLink, the parent company of Portent. And they tasked us with taking one of their sites that wasn't performing well and get it to perform again. So before we started work on it, they were losing traffic year over year. We closed the gap. This change was actually just putting meta descriptions back on the site and unblocking JavaScript and CSS in robots.txt, which was weird that they were doing that, but just those two things put us back at parity year over year. Then we started our internal linking strategy, just finding places to link to important landing pages. And the next few months, we got better year-over-year traffic overall. This is a particular landing page that did really well. Started linking in November, and then as rankings improved, traffic just went up and up and up. So this is a really good example of impact. Your mileage may vary, but you can get pretty good results from it if you're going after pages that are either at the bottom of page 1 or they're ranking at the top of page 2. Okay, any questions?
That was awesome. Thanks, Evan. So just a reminder to everyone, you can use chat feature. You can also come off video right now to ask questions. I have a few myself, so I'll start as people are thinking, getting themselves together. What was cool is as you were going through, I started writing some questions down, and you literally answered like 80% of my questions with the rest of your presentation. So yeah, awesome job. I'll start with one thing and then I'll try not to take up all the time because I could ask you a bunch of questions. But I was curious what your thoughts are on like same page anchor links that jump to a section of a page and how those play a part in internal linking and like if you utilize those in different ways.
Sometimes, okay, so the classic way to get around the first link priority rule is to use an anchor fragment or a hash in the link. It's a long story. I am going to write a blog post about it. I don't want to take up too much time with how it works, but if on a page you have multiple sections and you have a link navigation at the top of the page, like an ultimate guide or a very, very long guide, you can link to different sections of the site with an internal anchor or a fragmented URL. The anchor text you use there will count generally. So you can get multiple anchor texts on a page to a page. So you can get some extra relevance that way. So yeah, it works. It's a good thing to do.
Awesome. One other thing, and guys, if you want to throw questions in chat or come off audio, you're more than welcome to, since we just have it open, set up the way it is. You kind of touched on this, but I was hoping maybe you could elaborate a little bit more because you were talking about having a flat site architecture and how blogs with pagination can get lost kind of, and how you can kind of make those important ones stand up more and stand out more. And so I was curious about, you know, like utilizing blog categories with additional unique content to not only flatten the architecture and increase like semantic relevance, but also strategies to surface important content and prioritize content that's important in those categories, if you have thoughts around that.
Yes. Putting a paragraph or two of content on a blog category page is something I see people recommend. I've tried it. I usually do that when there's a keyword that the category ranks for somehow. Sometimes users want that page, and one way to support that ranking is to put content there. I am not certain if it's generally a good thing to do or if it generally has an impact. One of the things I like to do with category pages or like category archives, tag archives, is make sure that they're relevant, that a user would actually want to use them. I think putting content in there is part of that, so they know what's included in that category. Make sure they're indexable. Back in the Panda days, a lot of SEOs said you need to de-index all of your pagination pages, category pages, tag pages, author archives, and so on. I think that destroys link architecture. I've seen few people say they get positive results by doing that. I'd like to test it. I think that's a good thing to test. Just turn it off, see what happens. If you have a site that you can afford to do that to.
Yeah.
Generally, I think you want to have one set of those pages indexed and then determine what the cutoff point for when there's too many and make those not indexable.
Yeah,
or another.
sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Someone mentioned they couldn't hear, but I can hear you fine. And I was just checking to see if everyone else can hear you fine, but so good. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. If there can be problems with too many tag pages or pagination pages. You need to find a way of determining which ones need to be indexed and which ones don't.
Yeah. Well, that was great. I really loved your presentation, and I'll throw it out to the audience one more time. See if anybody has any questions. Just come off mute and ask, or throw it in chat, and if not, we'll wrap it up. Otherwise, I could just sit here and keep asking you a bunch of different questions. We can talk about. I actually had an experience with huge change just from doing that one thing is basically a lot of the paginated pages were no indexed. And then we unindexed those pages, but then we used the rel prev next to create the crawl structure, and the results were just ridiculous. So I agree with you 100%. At least my experience has been that that's not a good idea in most cases.
Another thing to consider is that one of the ways you can take advantage of that pagination phenomenon is if you have a blog post that gets a lot of traffic and you want to bump it up, republish it, change it enough to warrant a new publish date, and then get it to the top of the pagination series again. I think part of why updated content seems to perform better is that by changing its position and link structure, you're changing that link authority signal, and that's part of what moves it up.
100%. We get a question too from Brenda. She asked, Evan, does your approach to audit and analysis vary if you're dealing with like a very large site, say tens of thousands of pages, versus a relatively small site?
Yes. For audits, we plan a certain amount of billable hours that we're going to put towards an audit. And what I do is I look for the biggest problem areas or the biggest recommendations, highest impact recommendations I can give in that time allotted. And if that's not enough to cover the whole site, I'll recommend to the client splitting up the audit into the major sections of the site and then covering it in multiple stages. So like a site with 1 million pages, I definitely can't cover that in 20 hours. But I can cover that over the course of a couple quarters with 30 hours each.
Yeah,
maybe, depending.
There was also a question from Michael Romano. He said, other than Screaming Frog, what tools do you recommend to see the internal link structure?
I don't have experience with a lot of the newer commercial tools. As soon as Screaming Frog came out, I never left. At Portent, we have an internally developed one called RainGauge. It had our developer Matthew Henry, who does actually all of the data preparation and analysis for my blog posts. He coded the internal PageRank algorithm, and I think there's a few others that use it. I don't remember the ones off the top of my head, but it's definitely a cool feature to have when you're shopping for a new one.
Yeah, I think Screaming Frog is a go-to. Sitebulb is another one that occasionally used. But Michael, another different Michael, asked, have you thought about using a BERT-powered machine learning model like BERT Topic to help automate the identification of internal link opportunities?
Yep, I thought about it. I can't execute it. I'm just not that good at Python. And that's one of the goals. One of the places I want to get to is get to a point where I can take these libraries off of GitHub and then apply them to a site and then maybe build something that's usable for my practice and something usable by people who are not technical at all. But otherwise, I just use a site operator. Like Google's already using some kind of NLP in the background. I'll just take advantage of that for as long as I can. But the problem is it doesn't scale up. So I think the other part of this question is, have you ever thought about using a tool like an NLP library to make this scalable? That would be ideal. And hopefully that will, some commercial product will bring it to the masses so we can use it too.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for your time, Evan, and speaking today. It was a phenomenal presentation.
Thanks.
Thank all of our members for being here and our board for supporting doing this. Just a reminder to check out alldayoregon.org, our charity of choice, and have a great day. And if you haven't yet, sign up for the free membership. So with that, I wish you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Evan.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.